Hello everyone. Okay, I have had several questions about what is a blocked doily, how do I block a doily, and what do I mean by blocked doily. So I thought I'd do a little video to show everybody. This is a blocked doily. It's stiff, kind of keeps its shape, although it's not real stiff, but it's firm. It keeps its shape. This is a blocked doily. Again, it's not real stiff, but it keeps its shape. This is not a blocked doily. It's not finished. How would you say that? It's not nice and pretty and flat and neat and where you can see all the designs and everything. So how do I get from this to this? Okay, what I use is Stay Flow liquid starch. And I generally buy this at the grocery store or like Rite Aid or a pharmacy type store. And I usually mix it. Now it gives you directions for a light, a medium, a heavy, and an extra heavy. I generally, to get this effect where it still wiggles, but it stays firm where it belongs, I generally use the medium setting, which is, it says add 4 cups of water for each cup of Stay Flow. So when I'm just doing a few doilies, and I don't generally have enough to use everything, I take a container, an old plastic container. This happens to be an old ice cream container. And I mix the mixture in there. And then with the lid on it, it'll last for a while. This container is starting to get a little bit of mold around the top edge, but which generally to me tells me that I need to clean the container, start over again. Hold on one second. Here you go, babe. Here you go. Sorry about that. The wind blew my screen door closed and my puppy dog was outside. And he wanted to come in till I got to the door, and then he turned around. He went back to play. So anyway, I mix this in a container like this. And if I have a lot of doilies I'm going to do, I'll use 2 cups of water to a half a cup of this. So in other words, it's 1/4 of a cup of this per cup of water. So that is the mixture that I use. Generally, I will use the rubber gloves because generally I have my hand gloves on. I don't this morning, so I won't need to use the rubber gloves. But anyway, what do I block the doilies on? When I was probably around a teenager, my mother and I used to block doilies all the time. My mother loved to crochet. I loved to crochet. We were constantly crocheting and blocking doilies. And what we used was what was called a beaver board. Now, a beaver board is just compressed fibers that form like a wall board. The one that we happened to have was real fibery, real it was itchy, you know, and I hated using the beaver board because you lean up against it and you get it on your clothes, and then you get it on your arms or on your legs if you're wearing shorts or whatever, and it itched all the time. So I always hated using the beaver board. And when we used the beaver board, we had to take like a brown paper bag and cut it open and put it on top of the beaver board. And then we would draw a circle on it the size of the circle that we wanted. And we would block our doilies on that. Well, about, I would say probably maybe 10 years ago, I was making some doilies and I needed something to block them on. My mom still had the beaver board, but I didn't want to go over and borrow the beaver board because I hated the beaver board. But anyway, I created my own blocking boards. And what I used was simply a piece of foam core. The white foam core, you can buy it in the Dollar Tree, I think. Buy poster board in the Dollar Tree. I'm pretty sure you can buy the foam core in the Dollar Tree also. And what I did was I covered it with a piece of quilt batting. And then I covered it with this piece of squared paper, the pattern paper type stuff. And then I drew circles on it. Now this one here has 3, 5, 7, blah, 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 every odd inch. I did another one that has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, blah, 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 every even inch. That way, no matter what size my doily was, I had a board that would work for that and be able to follow the lines on the board. Then I covered it with a piece of the clear plastic, and you can get that at the fabric store, usually in where the tablecloth material is. It comes in 60 wide sheets or something like that, and I cut that to fit this, and then I just took the tape, duct tape, I know I think of it, the duct tape, and I taped the plastic on. So now this is what I use to block with. I have this one, I have the one for the even inches, and at one time I found this in, I believe it was in Joann's, and it's called the Quilter's Cut and Press. Well, on the one side it's got the plastic where you can cut your pieces of quilting material, and on the other side it's got the pattern with the padding and stuff. So this is the side you're supposed to press them on. And it had this plastic that was covering it. So, well, I just left the plastic on there, and I used this as a blocking board for my doilies. So whichever way you go, you can make it yourself. You can buy a piece of fiber wood, compressed fiber wood, and put a piece of paper over the top of it and block your doilies that way. Make your own out of the foam core board, or look for one like this. So those are the ways that I block my doilies. Now I'm going to take and show you how I block this doily here. So I'm going to turn this down so that you see the board there. I'm going to take my mixture of starch, dip it in the mixture of starch, make sure it's all wet, squeeze it out. Oh, I forgot one thing. I forgot my pins. Find the right side, put the right side up, and let me go get my pins. Okay, what I generally use are the pins with the, where are you? With the beads on the top, the pin of the bead heads. And the reason that I use those is because it's easier on my fingers, pushing them in and pulling them out. Always use stainless steel pins. Decide which size you're going to make it, which size it will work at, and you just take a point and pin it at the line that you want to pin it at. Go to the opposite side, take a point and pin it. I do that to all four sides. That way I know that the doily will stretch that far without stretching too much. So we have like that. Okay, now we're going to finish this up and we're going to make it the circle. So you just take every point and pin it. Every scallop, every picot, P-I-C-O-T, you know what those are. Chain 3, slip stitch in the third chain from the hook type thing. I could never remember the proper way to pronounce it. And I think I told you, always use stainless steel pins. Okay, so there is 1/4 of it right here. And you'll see that it's all lined up on the line. There. See how that's all lined up on that one particular line. And when you're stretching it on your doily, on your blocking board, you don't want to stretch it too much. You don't want to stretch it out of shape, but you just want to stretch it enough that all of the pattern is going to show when it dries. if you don't use stainless steel pins, then they have a tendency to rust on the doily, and basically it ruins your doily. So there is my doily all blocked. Now what you do is you simply let it set for several hours, overnight, whatever, and let it dry. Now I'll show you again on a smaller doily, like this one here. Get it wet, bring it out, and if you don't have a circle to go by, because this particular board has only the one circle, need to get it closer to me here, then just make it as round as you can. And even once you've pinned something down, you can go back and unpin it, move it around a little bit, and work with it until it's pleasing to you. So I just kind of stretch this a little bit all the way around. So I have 4 sides, but now see, you'll see that there's a difference here and a kind of a difference here. So we're probably going to have to do some adjusting with it to make it come out right. But I just start working my way around. Straightening things out and stretching just ever so slightly. And that one actually worked out well. I have to move this pin a little bit because it wasn't quite out far enough. So then if we continue on, you're forming your circle here now, and most people can generally say, okay, that looks like a pretty good circle to me. Now see here, we have, this one is not going to look right if I leave this pin where it is. So we move the pin over and do that one right and continue on around. When you block a doily, it's generally going to come out about an inch or 2 larger than what it was before it was blocked, because you are stretching it a tiny bit. And here, this is stretched too much. So I pull that one out and move it over. And now I think this last section looks like it's going to pretty well fall into place. So you can do it without the circle. I do have to say that I think the circles make it easier for you, and especially a beginner, getting to know that everything is coming out right. Okay, now trying to get it up to you so you can see it without knocking everything off my table here. So there I did one without a circle to go by, but I think it looks pretty much like a circle. and I'm going to just let it dry. Now this, another reason that I did that was to show you that you don't have to have just the one doily on a blocking board. Depending on the size of the blocking board, I have had 13 doilies on a board at a time. Now here we have a square one. So this one we're going to want to block as a square. It has 4 rounded corners. So what I do first is to establish my rounded corners. And since this has squares on it, I can follow along with some of the square lines. Okay, so there I have established my square and my corners. Now I could just leave it like that, but if I want to make these corners definitely flat and definitely circular, I can, let's see, it's this one here that I have pinned, this one here that I've pinned. So you can see how much more circular that one is than the others. And that's what I like, because that is the picture or the pattern that I saw. It was all kind of set out like that, where the corners were distinguished as being circular. And I'm just taking 3 pins and putting in there just to pull the corners out in a circle type shape. And what I'm doing is I'm using about every third chain 3 space to pin it. Without knowing what the pattern is, you may not know what I mean by that, but making them, kind of spaced out evenly around. Okay, so that is how I block a doily. That is what a doily is. Now I will leave these probably until this evening. They'll probably be dry by then, as hot as it is around here. Sometimes you have to leave them overnight, but these will probably be dry by this evening, so I will leave them until then. If you have a safe place to set them outside where they won't get dripped on by birds or hit by mud or anything that, kids playing or whatever, you can put them outside in the sun. They're going to be dry in a couple of hours. So anyway, I will just leave it like that. And then when it's all blocked and I come back in, I just pull out the pins. And then you have your blocked doily. And it will look Not the same pattern, but like this. Okay? So I hope that kind of explains what a blocked doily is, how you block a doily, and the reason that I block the doilies is so that when I use them on a table or wherever I use them, um, they lay flat, they're pretty, and it's something to be proud of. You look at it and you're proud of it, and it's very pretty. So that would be very much better than, I don't have another one here that's not blocked, but would be a nicer thing to look at. Let's just put it that way. So, all right. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope I was clear and helpful to some of you. And I will catch you again soon. Goodbye.